This review was pre-written that was edited late. I have ADHD, deal with it? Fine. Okay then. So last week I watched Beetlejuice and I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was mid. I had thought about it over the week before I let this one slide, and after seeing people say this is the return of Tim Burton's style, I have to ask myself. Is it really? Like, I can't imagine anyone actually waiting for this movie just to validate that fact, but it's simply not the case. Tim Burton's style never really went away. He was reportedly unhappy with the conditions he had to work with on Disney's Dumbo remake. He was creatively constrained. So when it came time to do a Beetlejuice sequel, he had to make sure this was his endeavor, that he had creative freedom to do what he wants, especially not casting a lot of black people in lead roles. So yeah, I watched this and it was not for me. In what sense, you may ask? As someone who did not watch the original Beetlejuice as a youngster? Or as someone who is not into goofy horror comedies? No, I watched the original Beetlejuice movie and I thought it was great. The cast, the production design, the overall goofy tone it presents in an otherwise horror setting was really fun, and Michael Keaton made a big name for himself because of his role. It doesn't matter if I had watched this as a kid or as an adult, there is something for everyone to enjoy even at a later stage of their life. My main concern isn't with the tone or nostalgia with the sequel, it's the fact that nostalgia is used in this film as a sort of coping device for modern stories. Allow me to elaborate. The film brings back Winona Ryder as Lydia Deetz, who has become a sort of celebrity, performing for TV as a spiritual medium, tracking and contacting with the dead in what is otherwise a jab towards ghost shows, when suddenly she starts seeing Beetlejuice in her mind as she is still haunted all these years for almost being forced to marry him against her will in order to save the Maitlands from being exorcised. She also has a bratty daughter named Jenna Ortega. I forgot her name, I'm not gonna even bother looking it up, she's just Jenna Ortega. She thinks her mum is cuckoo and doesn't believe in ghosts or sees dead people. The reason she hates her is because she can't use her power to see her husband, which is odd because Lydia can see a lot of dead people around her. It's not like this is shocking for her, it's pretty much her entire life. Then her manipulative fiancé proposes to her at the wake of her recently deceased father, because Jeffrey Jones is a creep nowadays, and Jenna runs off to meet up with a boy who shares her interests. Meanwhile, Beetlejuice is working in the netherworld to pay off his undead living wages and is haunted by a sorceress who wants to suck his soul. I hope you remember her. Suddenly, Jenna realizes that her boyfriend is dead and takes her to the netherworld to find her father, but the boyfriend trades her living soul and has her sent away to live the rest of her life in the netherworld. Lydia tries to save her with the reluctant help of Beetlejuice, and risks getting married to him again. Okay, now that I got that plot summary out of the way. Yeah. It's Beetlejuice movie and unfortunately he doesn't go Hawaiian. The script is laden with callbacks and nods to the previous film that doesn't do anything new or original. The dialogue just feels like it didn't evolve, it feels like it's stuck in the 80s, and I guess that's the feeling it's evoking, but it doesn't do anything to make it more modern. The only new original thing this film does was introduce this weird sequence in the movie where Jenna is taken to the Soul Train, which is somehow a subtle joke about black people. What? Like, no joke, there is a scene late in the film where Jenna, Astrid, gets put on this train in the netherworld and it's called the Soul Train, and predictably enough, the song they play is the Soul Train Gang and the people around it are disco afro wearing black actors. Why is this in the movie and was it necessary? Funnily enough, apparently Tim Burton doesn't like working with African or colored actors. Which kind of changes my perspective of him in a way I had not known, and it makes me look at his films in a different light. I'm not saying he's racist, but it is odd that the scene was even in here to begin with. Also, considering the film takes place in 2023. The netherworld is just never fleshed out or even explained in terms of world building, and what we got is a bloody Soul Train gag, and that part just dates the whole movie and ruins what kind of lore is even supposed to be written here. I do like the production design. I do like this one moment where Lydia calls out Beetlejuice's name, and the camera basically does these zoom cuts to her face. It felt like a homage to the Beetlejuice cartoon, and I thought that was kinda cute. I liked the flashback scene in the style of Black Sunday. This is where Tim Burton usually shines in by showcasing his love for gothic horror and putting his spin on things. There is a stop-motion scene where they basically kill off Jeffrey Jones' character in the most violent way possible, and I do love that we constantly see his character with the top half of his body gone. I like how much more gory the movie can get and still get away with a PG-13 rating. I mean, I think I saw more blood in this movie than say Borderlands, which isn't a good sign. Other than that, the rest of the movie was kind of a letdown. And that's mostly because of one problem that I have with this movie. Lydia's daughter. For me, this character really brought the whole movie down, because she was genuinely unlikable. I like Jenna Ortega, but I'm sorry, the way her character is written felt so forced. Jenna, Astrid, doesn't believe in the supernatural and doesn't believe in ghosts, and therefore finds her mother Lydia, who sold out to the corporate media to make a TV show, to be a crazy kook, and she gets harassed at school because she is embarrassed. Considering Lydia was a goth kid who can see dead people and was okay with it, why would it not make sense for her to talk to her daughter about this sort of stuff? Plus, they really shouldn't have given Lydia a daughter if this is the route they want to take. If Jenna was more understanding to the notion that her mum has a sixth sense and that her behavior is more in line with how she was as a child, then maybe you could make that relationship work. No, instead she literally thinks her mum is crazy and dismisses her every time she brings up her dead husband, and it made me hate her more. Like, I repeatedly kept thinking, just you wait, when Beetlejuice shows up then you'll regret it. But instead she comes across a boy who just so happens to be dead, and she can see his ghost, but it's not revealed later on before she is signed away to the Soul Train. Oh boy. I guess it runs in the family after all. Hayek. So all of her ramblings about being distant from her mother just made her not only hypocritical but also antagonistic. Great parenting. Also, Lydia can literally see any dead people she comes across. Why doesn't she just show her daughter any random dead guy and maybe she could believe her? Oh right, Lydia is written off to be an idiot. And it shouldn't really be this easy for me to hate on someone like Jenna. If you could make them somewhat more likable with other distinguishing traits, maybe I would have cared as much. A good example of this is Ed from Shaun of the Dead. He seems like an unlikable douche at times, but he really does come around at the end and cares so much about Shaun, Liz, and even Barbara that he just becomes a big-hearted oaf who's willing to sacrifice himself to the zombies when all seems dire. If we're talking about better mother and daughter characters, watch Lady Bird. I think that does the whole mother-to-daughter dilemma much better, or even Barbie does this as well. Same director. So the same cannot be said about Lydia and Jenna. I think it's terribly written, cliched and forced for the sake of the plot. Moving on from that tangent, the cast of characters is quite the letdown. You have this corpse bride-looking sorceress who wants revenge on Beetlejuice. I completely forgot she was even in the movie, because the movie forgets about her after about halfway into the plot. They set this lady up to be like this grand evil villain who can suck the souls out of everyone, only to be shoved aside and isn't even mentioned again until the end, where is ultimately defeated in the lamest way. Why is Willem Dafoe in the movie? What even is his character? He's an actor who played a cop in the movies but dies in a stunt accident, and now he's a cop in the underworld and he's got a team of undead cops on his side. Again, they don't do anything in the movie. The punk teen who almost kills Jenna, his story abruptly ends without any sort of resolution. Beetlejuice calls him a F***er and sends him to hell. Justin Theroux does nothing in the movie. Catherine O'Hara phones it in. At least Michael Keaton does a rather stellar job at the character of Beetlejuice. It's nothing special, it's the same performance he's done before he got typecast into more serious roles like Batman. I'm glad he's having fun. Lastly, I want to point out the scene during the climax. Spoilers, I guess. But, during the last confrontation between Beetlejuice in the chapel where he plans to once again marry Lydia, he causes the audience in the chapel to be sucked into their phones as he wants this to be a private function. The people get trapped into their phones, and after the whole scene plays out and Beetlejuice is defeated. Again, that part was never resolved. Like, are the people in the chapel just trapped in their phones forever now? What happened to the people? They just got horribly transported into their smart devices and are never mentioned about or even referred to again. Life just goes on, I guess. Did they **ing die? Anyway, that's about it. Beetlejuice. The movie is a big letdown for me. The plot felt recycled with added subplots that lead to nowhere or are just never expanded upon or are just downright abandoned. The characters, apart from maybe Catherine O'Hara and Michael Keaton, remain the strongest portion of this. The production and effects are good enough, but the callbacks and everything else are just not enough to satisfy. As a crippled old man once said, you didn't notice it, but your brain did. And that is why I don't turn my brain off for these things. Yes, so, I don't know. 4/10, I guess. I did not like it. It's closer to a 5/10 than a 3/10, but I am pretty confident that this is the rating that I stand by on. Sorry, I don't make the rules. See you later, bye.